There's some times where the mind gets overwhelmed and you cannot slow it down. But by these certain tools I developed, by not allowing your mind to get away from the moment. You have to think about the exact moment that you're in. But I saw when I was younger, the moment became too big. When it became too big, I spazzed out and I would quit. But now I don't think about even like an hour from now, I'll be eating. I don't even go there. Because then your mind, no, we must embrace this, because now you have to be a leader in this moment. It's not about you just getting through it. I had 5 guys, and 6 including me, in my boat crew. Now I was the boat crew leader. So now another trick is this: if you don't think about yourself, there's no pain. Which can also lead to pain later on in your life. Mm-hmm. But in these moments when you're struggling, if you are a true leader and you're worried about your men or women beside you, your mind doesn't care how cold you are anymore. Mm-hmm. Your mind's only worried about taking care of the men and women beside you. So I started realizing, man, if I take care of these cats to my left and my right in the worst moments, my mind is no longer thinking about, you're miserable, David Goggins, get the hell out of here. You're thinking about, how was John, how was Andy, how was Sam, how was Pete? Hey, how you guys doing? You're not thinking about me. So there's so many things you can do to get outside your own head to then allow your body to just be like, hey, we're just a machine. But you have to let your mind be able to process all these different tactics to do that. Take a different vantage point in life. When you are in the hell, you can't see the beauty of being in it when you're in it. Get on top of that mountaintop in your mind. Get on top of that mountaintop and look down on what you're doing. You can see a whole different world, and that world is beautiful. But you gotta get a different vantage point in the suck. Don't be in it. Spiritually, get out of it. Get that soul. Look down on what you're doing. Be amazed by the process of where you're at now and where you came from. I've had this mentality for years. It got me through a lot of hard times. You cannot use it every day of your life. You cannot use it. I use it as like, my God, this is the perfect, I found it. This is the trick. You don't even matter. You're just a machine. You are a machine. Like just like a lever. That's all you are, man. You're not. You're not. And in my book, I talk about what that lever starts to get rusty, starts to get crusty. It starts to I can't even think about anybody but myself. So through the process, what I started to learn was that helps a lot, and you can tap into that all the time. But you have to be able to heal yourself. You have to be able to recover yourself. It can't be something that you continue to do and do and do. There has to be a recovery process for your mind, your body, your soul, your spirit. It encompasses your whole body. So those are tactics, but those tactics must be oiled up. That lever has to be oiled again to go back in it. I talked about that big time in my last chapter, how it just takes me to nothing, how I'm where you were at. You know, it's taken me 5 years of doing my meditation, my stretching, my eating right, my sleeping right. And you have to be on a constant reminder, almost like how you put a reminder on your phone, 15 minutes, you got this, that has to be in your brain. You've done too much, stop. And what happens in life is that we start to see our lives become so successful. We're making money, we're doing this, we're doing that. I want more, I push harder. I'm all about pushing hard, don't get me wrong.
Obviously.
I'm all about it. But to push as hard as you can, you have to be mindful of the machine that's pushing. It is going to end up dying. And then it takes years to get it back, so you lose that time.
Totally.
That time is gone. You know, I lost 5 years of, I could be crushing it. Where now I'm just now back to crushing it, realizing, God, man, I learned the hard way. The unrelenting voice that we all have. What happens to that voice? I'm gonna answer your question. We all have a voice in our head. Some of us are very spiritual, some of us are not, but we all have this voice and you're doing fucked up shit. This is wrong, don't do that. The more you don't listen to that voice, the further that voice gets away from your head. Some people call it the Holy Spirit, some people call it God, some monks, whatever you call it. It's there. We all have it. It's the right or wrong voice. But the more we don't listen to it, the more that voice goes away. And the only voice you hear is yourself. When the only voice you hear is yourself, you're wrong. There's a voice that guides you through life. When sometimes it's guiding you in a direction that you don't want to go, that's usually the right place to go. It's that uncomfortable place. So that voice is always talking to me, but we don't listen to it. I listen to it. And when I start getting anxious, nervous, like we all know when we've done too much because it's telling us, I'm getting tired, I'm wearing down. But we go. I start talking to my fiance, hey, I'm doing too much. You start now, like I did in Hell Week, like I do all the time, the 1 second decision. It's that decision when your mind starts to get so amped up, whenever you can't hear yourself think, you gotta slow down. Whenever you're living off a schedule, every day's a schedule, you have no time for yourself. When you start, and we all know it, I don't have time for this anymore, I don't have time for that anymore. That's when your mind and your body are saying, think about that. I'm neglecting my fiance, I'm neglecting my disciplines of life, I'm neglecting my reading, my learning, my workouts, my diet. When you start neglecting all of that, you neglect one of them, you can neglect all of them a long time. It's gonna haunt you. When you start seeing that, my God, I haven't eaten right in a long time, haven't been sleeping right in a long time, it can only be one of those things to take you off. So I'm very aware of my eating, my sleeping, my disciplines of life. And when I started to get too far away from them, it's a hard stop.
You think that the people who run things are sitting at home smoking big cigars and like telling their minions what to do. It's like that's like the 1920s millionaire that's on the cover of the Monopoly game. That's no sociological analysis. I know lots of people like that, and they work all the time, from the second they wake up to the second they go to sleep. And they don't just casually work, because I know some of you go to the library for 6 hours and you say, well, I studied in the library for 6 hours. Like, no, you didn't. So these people who are running things, there's corrupt people, obviously, but the vast majority of them first are self-made and second, they're so bloody efficient, you cannot believe it. And they work 80 hours a week. And most of them happen to be men. And why is that? Because there are a small number of insane men who will do nothing but work 80 hours a week. And no matter where you put them, why aren't there more women in positions of power? It's why are there any men insane enough ever to occupy those positions? Because we also know, and the data on this is very clear, what's the relationship between money and well-being? Once you have enough money to keep the bill collectors from your door, so once you have enough money to stave off misery, which is sort of lower middle class, something like that in our society, maybe a little lower than that, extra money does not help you. It does not improve your life. So why bother with it? Well, that's what the women in the law firms think. It's like most of them, by the time they're in their 30s, are married. Almost all of them are married to men who make as much money or more than they do, because that's what women go for cross-culturally. 4 to 5 years older, equal or higher in the socioeconomic status. So their husbands already make $350,000 a year. It's like they think, well, I don't need much more money. The men use money to keep track of the competition, by the way, and they want to win. So there's a real brass knuckles competition that drives these sorts of things.
One of the things we were always trying to figure out was, well, how much should you work? Because one answer is you just work till you die, right? I mean, you just exhaust yourself, and well, that's not a good idea. And then you have to figure out why that isn't a good idea. It's got to be something like this, is that you don't want to do so much work that the amount of work you do interferes with the amount of work that you could still do, right? Because if you work like mad for 2 weeks and then you have to lie in a hospital bed for a month, that obviously isn't very productive. So you have to figure out how much you can work diligently and then how much you have to recuperate so that you can get back up and work again. And that's, people have basically settled on something like this and given it the divine imprimatur. That's one way of thinking about it, which is, well, you can toil away for 6 days, and no wonder, because you have to work, but you should rest at least 1 day out of 7, because otherwise, well, you don't appreciate life. That might be part of it. And plus, I think it's more a matter of iterability, because one of the things that defines morality is the capacity to repeat something, right? So if something is properly structured in a moral manner, then you can do it over and over and over again without any degeneration.